All right, so what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be talking about formatting a script. And you may want to keep your journals out so you have something to work on. We're working probably, I think we're still, no, we must have the internet now. You guys are online. That's great. For right now, you can close your computers down because we're just going to be, oh, it's here. Yeah, but right now at the beginning here, I'm going to have you with them closed. I'm going to go through what we're doing, and then I'm going to ask you to open your computer. So Alex, thanks. Go ahead and close it all the way down. Thank you very much. So when we were looking at those journal prompts, we noticed, Alex, you need to move? I would love to be able to cover this material quickly. Thank you. When we were looking at the journal prompts, we noticed that there were some things in each of the ones that I showed that they were doing. And basically, they were helping us see what were stage directions and what were dialogue cues. We want this information to be readily available. I've got for you online on Schoology, there's an assignment on writing dialogue. And I've linked most of this stuff on there. To begin with, for the stage directions, this model, and there are two different models available. You'll notice that the models have some differences, but the most important thing is you can easily tell what are stage directions, what are dialogue tags, in other words, Bob says, so-and-so says, and what's actually the dialogue. So in this example, we've got the stage directions here, and they're way over here on the left-hand side. So there are three different kinds. Or the right-hand side. So it's like, but it's 3.5 to the left, right? So this is, they're saying 3.5 inches over. Don't get hung up on the numbers. There's actually a Word file at the bottom of this that we can use as a template. So don't think you have to take a lot of notes. But basically what you're looking at is there's a major tab over here. And then all the stage directions are going to happen at that point on the page. And then there's, so that's like the scene level stage directions, right? And you see they give us another example of stage direction here, which is, no, that's actually a dialogue. So, you had a question, Alex?
Yeah. When is this due? Like, when is, like, the rewrite or the whatever?
The writing thing is due next week, Friday.
Okay.
I thought it was this week Friday.
Dude, that would be
You were
so
mistaken.
ridiculous.
Well, I wasn't prepared to.
Okay. So these are the scene stage directions here. And then we go down and there's other stage directions that happen. There's the staging directions. These describe what happens on stage during the scene. Entrances, exits, major movements of characters, new characters, fights, light changes, and being chased by a bear are all examples of action that would require stage direction. So here we see, as Daniel had them, we've got those parentheses setting it off. And we've got it set in more than the dialogue. You see the dialogue starts out here, where the stage directions are set in farther here. Does that make sense? So we see we've got the general scene stage directions that are much further over to the right. Then we've got these in-stage stage directions that we start with the parentheses. David?
To start the scene, could we do the previous thing, like the big paragraph, the introduction, and then continue with this?
To do the previous thing that I'm...
Can you scroll up?
Oh, yeah. So, like, yeah, at the start of the scene, you should have something like this right here. Because at the beginning of the scene, just something that sets the scene to let us know what's going on. When we read Shakespeare, we see that he does an incredibly minimal job of this, right? It'll be like Rome, a street. And we actually want a little more than that in your adaptation because we're doing something very specific. We're making it contemporary. So if you say, like, a high school gymnasium or something like that, I'm going to want you to even be more specific than that because, you know, if you're thinking of a, you know, like an NPR like we have, that's significantly different than, for an example, you know, gym at another school. Question?
Yeah. I may be jumping ahead a bit, but in this book it has the dialogue tags like Daniel and Eton did to the left.
Right.
Character speaking.
Right. So,
In the middle.
right. So there's two different models that I'm showing you. This one puts the dialogue tags here in the middle, and there's another one that has the dialogue tags over on the left. Either one. My main point isn't that one format is better than another, but that each of these formats allow the text to function well. In other words, we can clearly see where we change from one character to another. We can clearly see what lines are supposed to be read and what stage directions are supposed to be known and acted on. Anna.
What if you don't want the reader to know where they are until you want them to know?
What do you mean?
Like, you don't want them to know at the beginning of the scene where the actors are.
Well, then you would have stage directions that would say something like, at the beginning of the scene, the set is dark, we can't tell where the characters are, even though later it becomes obvious that they're in the gymnasium, or something like that. So you would just write that directly in the stage directions, because your stage directions are notes to the director and the actors about how this scene should be set, or what individuals should do. Anything you don't give stage directions for, they're free to interpret as they like. So here we've got the character tags, and they've got them indented at about 4 inches, so that's 4 inches over from the side. You can center them, but most writers find it easier to set a single tab for the character tag. Use all capital letters to identify the character speaking. You can use their full name or a shorter version, as long as it's unique within your draft. So here they've got it centered. Like I said, there's another example I'm going to show you in a second, which has it on the left-hand side. You had a question? No? Well, by one tab, what they mean is at the top of a Word file,
Press tab.
there is this. So there is this ruler up here, right? And when they talk about a tab, that's setting this mark up at this top ruler. So there would be one tab that you set, and you can set and move tabs up here. So I could reset this tab from what they have at 2 inches to 1 inch, and that's going to move it out there. And if there was another thing that was set on that same tab anywhere in the document, it would also move that. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about setting these physical tab points. And those actually relate back to like margin settings on the typewriter. I can show you that later if you want. This is at the bottom of that Script Freaks, I think is their page. This is the Word file that I've got linked for you. It's actually already linked for you on Schoology. So you can see that this gives you scene 1. Scene description goes here. In this one, Nicole sits at her computer playing with Microsoft Word. Benjamin, her main character, comes up behind her. Benjamin, what are you doing? I'm trying to figure out how to create some styles in Microsoft Word so I can write this play about you. So this is someone who's just created a page of dialogue that is properly formatted. And you can use this as the basis for your dialogue. You could like type in here, select all, and write your scene description, and it's going to be formatted correctly. You can, where it's Benjamin, you can put in whatever your character's name is. You can actually just keep this formatting and use this as a starting point. Now I'm going to show you, I said one other model. Go ahead.
The second Benjamin one, which is perhaps the way from Nicole,
Mm-hmm.
is that centered or is there a tab set?
In this case, there is a tab set for that. See, I clicked into here, and then I can see that up here this tab moves to 1.5.
Okay.
And then if I click into, closing clear. If I click into this part of the dialogue, you can see
There's no tab.
that this tab has shifted back. And if I move that tab, it's going to move each piece of dialogue that's already over there. Make sense? All right. One more model, and then I'm going to have you practice this. Here's an example that shows it in a different setup. You've got the stage directions in italics right here, but they go all the way across the page, right? Instead of being tabbed in anywhere, they span the whole page. They've got a hanging indent set up where they've got the character name, and then they've got all of the dialogue lining up over here, and they return back. You can do this using tabs in Microsoft Word. No, this isn't columns. It's called a hanging indent. And you can either do that by essentially pressing the tab button a lot to make it look like you want to look, or you go up to the beginning of your page and you grab your tab key, you move it all the way over. You'll notice that this tab is actually made up of 3 pieces. Let's see if we can do this. No. Where is it? Is it going to let me? Trying to zoom in more. It's not going to let me. But this tab bar is made up of 3 pieces. There's a top piece. Mr. Patterson cannot draw. There's a second piece. And then there's this bottom piece. And essentially what you're doing at this point is you're wanting to grab this top one. You're wanting to grab this top one and move it over. So it would end up looking like that up at the top where you've got this split between the two. I'm going to close this and not save it because I don't want to save that tab work I just did.
That is what you would call a hanging indent.
That is what you would call a hanging indent. So now I'm going to ask those of you with computers to open your computers up and log on to Schoology, because I've got a formatting dialog assignment there for you. And let me get it open here so you can do it on paper should needs be.
Oh no, your McAfee is trying to get you to buy a product.
Daniel LaCroix. What?
So you'll find this, if you go into Schoology, guys, if you go into Schoology, you'll find this document attached to the assignment that says formatting dialog, or format this dialog and add stage directions. So that's what I'm going to be asking you to do. If you're working individually, I'll get this printed out. I need, there's 3 or 4? 4 of you? Okay. Let's take about 10, 15 minutes and get this done. When you're done with this, move on to working on your dialogue for the senior adapting.